Welcome back to another episode of the HMG Podcast. My name's Gorcin. We've just finished Southern Thrust, which is a 2-day, 4-round event here in Albany. This is in the south part of Western Australia. It's much longer than a 45-minute drive, as Dan and Jacob would have led our viewers incorrectly to believe after they were hosted reviews and podcasts. This has been the first 2-day tournament I've ever attended. It's also my first time down to Albany, so this has been a hell of an experience for me. I've got John Gill here, who ran the event for us. I've got to say, Gilly, it was a stellar event. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Gorcin. I've really enjoyed the opportunity to put this on for the community. Yeah,
it's been great, and I think one of the hallmarks of our tight-knit bolt action community is that between the rounds, overnight, you basically invited everybody to barbecue over your place, which I think sets a new standard for all TOs here, not just in WA, but I think for Australia. So thanks again for doing that for us.
We're doing our best to level up, mate. The events that you guys put on with Skulls, with Justin and Dan, they are just absolutely fantastic. They're great for the community, and we've always loved and feeling included when we come up there from Albany. And it's just great I really wanted to give back to the community. I wanted to expose the guys in Albany to the wider, WA player base. And that was, let's put on an event, get the guys down, and that's what we did, and it's been great.
And I think that's a great bit of advice for any TO, and thanks for letting us know that you're feeling welcome. Is that build it and they will come. I think it's just great advice all around. So, the first event that you've run,
Yep.
What did you think? How was it being a TO? How was it sort of keeping all of the gears greased? Did everything sort of go to plan in the end?
I feel like it did.
Yeah.
In the end, I feel like it did. It was a bit nerve-wracking, and all new experiences can be a bit like that.
Yeah.
But it was really good, and the beauty of bolt action community in WA is they will get behind an event. I put it out there to the community maybe 3 months ago at the last Skulls that we wanted to run an event in Albany in July. We changed the date a couple of times, which probably could have thrown a spanner in the works, but the community dealt with it. They were good, and they still got behind us, and they still turned up.
Yeah.
Lucky that we put it in the middle of school holidays, which has turned out really well. But yeah, there you go.
Yeah, fantastic. So for those of you following along at home, it was a 888-point event. We had one platoon to choose from. Theatre selectors were allowed. Armoured platoons were allowed as well. I was wondering if you sort of give everybody a taste of what lists sort of came and went, and what you sort of expected versus what caught you by surprise.
Yep, so we put it out to the community, exactly as you said. It was a kind of gloves off event, which maybe not the best thing for the new guys in the community, but I mean, our guys have played a few games, and it was up to your choice what you wanted to bring. I put it out there that we would get additional VPs based on your list build. So that was a bit of an incentive to perhaps, while we took the gloves off and you could bring what you liked, the incentive was there to take the things that aren't always taken in a normal bolt action list. We wanted to embrace the first LT, so we offered a victory point per round for a first LT. We offered a victory point per round if you took a full-size squad, because normally, you get around that 7 to 8 man for a perfect-size squad. And the third one was
veterancy. So,
gee whiz, I should know these things. A list that took all the same veterancy would be awarded 1 VP per round. Just about everybody took that on board. I think out of the 18 players, we had 8 players take full veterancy. So that's half the player base. 75% of players took a first LT, and 85% of players took a full strength squad. So you're looking at 14 or 15 guys taking their full strength squad. It was good to see those numbers up, and I chose 888 points because I love 88s. Just like you're taking 101st all the way and 82nd airborne all the way for your event. It was kind of along those lines. We had 4 Soviet lists, 4 US lists, 4 German lists.
Okay.
And then a smattering of a couple of British lists, a Finnish, a Hungarian, a Japanese,
nice spread of the
And
minor nations there. Yeah,
absolutely. It was good for the variety, and that's great.
Yeah, it was. And you did the structure a little bit differently as well. Normally we do Axis and Allies, and this time around it was full Swiss pairings. How do you think that went?
So I chose to do Swiss pairings because I thought that while a few matchups might be rough early on, once the Swiss pairing takes over, like later on in the event, day 2, guys would be playing guys of the same skill level. Then it just allowed the kind of benefit of those guys who were taking gloves off and taking, far left or far right lists could kind of be playing guys that would be able to handle it at the same skill level, and it would be a more balanced game. And I feel like day 2 today, I didn't see anybody not smiling. Perhaps on the top tables were a little bit nerve-wracking at times, but everybody loved it and embraced it.
Yeah, it's a fantastic format. I think it was a bit of a breath of fresh air for me as a player on 2 different counts. One, only having to play 2 rounds in a day was nice. Not having to squeeze that third one in, and the fatigue really starts to set in on that third round, particularly, at least for myself, I find. And another thing that was refreshing, or perhaps telling, is that 2 out of 4 of my games were against Soviet players. And so going up against, blue on blue is typically avoided, but going up against Soviets and being like, I have no idea how they work. I've never had to come across them. And we normally do Axis and Allies.
So there was an imbalance in the lists. I think there was about 7 Axis forces, including the ringer, and there was 10
or 11 or whatever left over.
10 Allied forces. So it was kind of a little unavoidable. We were going to have a bit of blue on blue anyway.
Of course.
But that played into the Swiss pairing. So you ended up playing whoever you were meant to play.
And so one of the things that surprised me, I think as much as it surprised you as well, was that nobody took an armoured platoon. Do you think, why do you think that is?
I don't know. I'm a fan of armoured platoons, and if I can somehow squeeze an armoured platoon in a generic reinforced selector, I will. So if I can take enough armour, and they're the lists I like to search for, that's what I go for. I was a bit disappointed, and I think they might have done really well. But everybody took enough anti-tank to kind of take on an armoured platoon if they saw one, but nobody chose to.
It's interesting you say that, because so I took 2 Shermans in my list. Again, for the people playing at home, I took the Bloody Gold Selector, 2 squads at 12, 2 squads at 6, a First Lieutenant Light Howitzer, and two mainline Shermans. There was a couple of kickers in the list that didn't really apply. The main one was that my Shermans had to either be in reserve or in first wave. They couldn't start on the table, regardless of what the scenario allowed. And so that was painful for a couple of games. Even with the radios, there was a few reserve rolls where I was like, man, I need a Sherman right now.
Did you have any get delayed?
I did both games where they had him in reserve. One of them failed a reserve roll, so rather than having both of them roll on turn 2 and save the day, just like in Bloody Gulch, I had one roll on turn 2 and one roll on turn 3, which was okay, but convoys aren't anywhere nearly as impressive as a wedge just being driven through the forces. But I found most only had kind of one kind of good anti-tank weapon, which would have been either a medium howitzer or something like that. I don't think I came across any other medium tanks. I came across a Stuart. Although that being said, when I came across Dan in round 2, he had, I think, 3 anti-tank rifle teams, 2 of the forward deploying Soviet teams with Panzerfausts. His Katusha ended up deleting one of my Shermans, which was extremely frustrating. But aside from that, I didn't come across a lot of anti-tank. So I think if somebody had really knuckled down on that armoured platoon, maybe not gone past armour value 8, I think they would have really dished out a lot of damage.
Well, another part of kind of limiting the points at 888 and having an open slather, gloves off, take what you like. I thought, look, we really can't fit that many dice in there. I'm not going to put a dice cap down because nobody's going to bring that many dice. We had a 15 order dice list, we had a 17 order dice list, and some guy took a 20 dice order list. That's incredible numbers. I really didn't expect that. And the guys played through the games and were finishing games with 20 dice. Now, I guess our community in Albany is a bit younger, a bit fresher, so we'll take half that number and just kind of struggle to finish a game. But I guess now that was good exposure for our guys to have the guys from Perth show us how you can finish a game with 20 order dice in the time limit. In the time limit too. Some of you guys were finishing games in an hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Really impressive to watch. Really impressive.
I think it goes to show that bolt action as a system is a fast game. And if you can make decisions quickly, you can play the game very quickly. So the game that I had against Dan was 28 dice in the bag.
Wow.
My 8 versus his 20. I think he had 20 and some change. It was near on 30 dice, and we got to the end of turn 5, I think in the 1.5 hour or the 2 hour time slot or whatever it was for the round.
Yeah.
And that goes to show you that a lot of people say that you go to 12 because then the games can't run over time and all the other sorts of things. It's like, yeah, it helps, but ultimately a lot of it comes down to the players. Know your rules, play them fast, and know where to find the rules as well, which admittedly doesn't help. We know that the rule book's a bit of a jumble, and things aren't really where they feel like they ought to be on first or 15th reading.
Yep.
But yeah, familiarize yourself, know your forces rules, and know the core rule book. That's kind of the only two things that one player needs to know. If you know other factions, that's great, but
yes.
it's not mandatory. The best thing I think you can do is come to the table and be like, what's your list? How does it work? And of course, they don't have to tell you all the tricks and secrets and strategies, but they can be like, what special rules have you got?
Yep.
What are some things I need to keep in mind? Or you go, hey, I've never played Japanese. What are their national rules and that sort of thing? So, yeah, I think if you can get all of that, I made it sound like a short list, but if you can get familiar with it over the course of a couple of games and a couple of tournaments, it's a very fast game to play, and I think that really showed this weekend.
Another reason to have like a lower, not a dice cap, but a points limit, is to get through those games, finish those games off. And to the credit of the players, everybody got in, played their games, and nearly all the games were finished across the weekend. Even with the guys who are a little less experienced, they were getting their games to turn 6.
Yeah, perfect.
Which was great to see.
I think over the 4 rounds, I only heard you say dice down once.
I think so.
Which is great. It's exactly how you want the tournament to run. It means your players are taking it seriously. They're here to play, but not too seriously. I think, as you said, there was a couple of sour faces across the weekend. One was definitely mine in round 2 because I didn't really get to use my force. I think out of an 8 dice list, I failed 4 order checks every round.
Yes.
So that was horrifyingly frustrating, and then when I did get to use them, I was rolling a lot of ones, but you take it in stride. You win some, you lose some.
I think if we're talking about sour faces, so to get 20 order dice, you need to take an inexperienced list.
Yeah.
And we did end up with 3 fully inexperienced lists.
Yeah, wow.
Obviously taking the full inexperienced list to capitalise on the VPs for pre-game army list selection. And those guys, when we're having missions that involve reserves, as we know, inexperienced guys just aren't the most reliable for bringing them onto the table. And I think there was one player in particular that suffered in multiple games, having trucks with 2 different units in them, not being able to come onto the table.
Yeah, I heard about that. I walked over to it and I was like, man, I am so sorry that happened. I heard about it, I think it was 2 rounds after the fact. And I just stopped. I just put my order dice down, walked over, and I was like, "Oh my god, I am so sorry." I think he was down 350 points that game. He lost. They all died in reserve.
He took it with an absolute smile on his face. Though,
Yeah.
After the sour face had gone, it was like, this is how the day's going to be.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things I really like about the bolt action communities. These things are frustrating, and I think it would be naive or disingenuous to say that it doesn't affect you. But it's just not about like carrying on about it and be like, that's really frustrating or that's really irritating. But it's not your opponent's fault. You don't take it down to them. You don't take it out of them. You just go, I'm going to be a little bit quiet about it while I process that for a little while. But you just leave it at the table. And I think the community is really great at doing that.
That's right.
I had my opponents had some frustrating games round 3 and 4. I had some really hot dice round 3. My opponent had some very cold dice round 4, and both of them took it in stride. So that was really great to see. Is your plan for this event to continue?
I hope so.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think this was the first in a few years of good tournament offerings from Albany. It was what's the word for a first year tournament? Inaugural event. Thank you. And I think my plan is to get a trophy, a perpetual trophy. It's just something that didn't happen prior to this event because we were busy. This being our first event, we were flat out. One of the things we really wanted to capitalise. Okay, so I'll go back to the start.
Tell us the story about Southern Thrust.
To attract guys to come to Albany. So my focus was to get our guys in Albany exposed to the wider community. I thought, how do I achieve that? 3 things I need to do to get guys from Perth to come down. Let them take what they want to do. Provide the most fantastic terrain that I can get my hands on. And third one is lots of prize support.
Yeah. And must I say, as a player who drove from Perth, I think you delivered on all 3 perfectly.
Thank you very much. This was our mission. Now, we've talked about lists, so let people take what they want, and they did, largely. There was still a bit of self-regulation in the community, which was really, really good to see. I mean, that just speaks for the community itself. I've heard podcasts that say, it's always gloves off and that's how you play, and they always also commented that sometimes the Australian bolt action community, even the wider community, is self-regulating, and I think it speaks true to that.
I've heard that too.
Yep. So we had let them run that one. So tables of terrain. I put 4 tables of my own down. We had a couple of local community members who have seen what we've been doing and wanted to get involved, because we really do get immersed in the almost scale modelling side of things. Like
the quality of the terrain, and not just the top end, but also just the base standard of terrain was exceptional in this event. And I know we say that a lot about our events here in WA and Perth, but I really feel like this one was that notch above from what we've seen before.
And I've got to thank, I have to name drop straight away.
Absolutely.
Lev Vikapal had done all of the buildings for the 4 tables that I put down. His standard of craft, of what he does, in 28 mil scale wargaming is just fantastic. It's beyond and above, and he's got a reputation. I think he does commissions even over on the East Coast. He's so good at what he does. I thank him so much. He was great. He was also the donor of one of the most beautiful pieces of prize support. He painted a Italian themed church for us. It was really popular, and being able to advertise for an event, post up on Facebook that we've got this beautiful piece of terrain available is the things that gets guys flicking
for
off the
prize.
For a prize, which he donated. Out of the kindness of his heart. I mean, look, we've bought a fair bit off Lev, so it wasn't hard to reach out to him and say, look, help us out. Lev.
But he also didn't need to do that either.
Absolutely not. No. There's no need for that. But he's a great guy. Great guy. He's always around the community. So, I want to say thank you to him. Speaking of sponsors, there was a number of sponsors that just came out of the woodworks for us. Andy Lawson, a little surprise there from him. He'd mentioned to us that he was just going to send a little something down. He sent a beautiful train set down, printed, painted, just amazing, 6 foot of rail and tracks, all ready to go. I mean,
that's Andy for you.
Unreal guy, and that's community again, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It just is. I'll keep saying it because I'm gobsmacked every time. Got other game systems that just don't have what we have, and I don't know whether it's there's a large lot of older guys in the community that are just mellowed out a bit or whatever, but we all love what we do. Everybody wants to pull their part and do their things. We also had sponsors, so we also had Rubicon Miniatures come on board.
Fantastic.
They sent us some vouchers. Leadbear Tufts, we know
Barry strikes again.
Absolutely, we know Barry. He's out of South Australia?
I think so, yeah.
You'd think he was in WA, the amount he supports us, right?
I know.
And the most generous of guys.
Absolutely, yeah.
We had Geek Villain come on board to give us a big discount voucher.
I just got my hands on my Geek Villain mat. It's a beauty.
They are amazing. We run Geek Villain over half our tables. 6 or 7 of our tables had Geek Villain mats. Fantastic quality. You can put stuff underneath them and go that next level instead of having a level table. You can put hills in there and stuff. They're really great. We had our steins that we love to give out. They use them at skulls as well. From Lizard Kitty, just a small business out of home that makes steins and tablecloth and stickers. Well, CJ did up all the stickers for Southern Thrust because I want to get the advertising out there for future
absolutely,
events.
Yeah.
Put one of these on your cards, guys. I think that wraps it up. There was some other donated terrain. One of the local guys actually crafted some. He's a carpenter by trade. He handcrafted some biros with a bullet on the end, a bullet style looking biro
and a bolt action. Yeah,
a bolt action for the pen. They are amazing quality. They were so fantastic. They were pretty popular. So
yeah.
Is that what you ended up with?
Yeah, absolutely. I saw the smattering on the table and I was like, I think I couldn't argue with the quality of the church and the obviously the train piece and all of the vouchers as well. But I felt like I wanted something that was, I don't know if unique is the right word, but something that was a little bit different. Because I'll always get more miniatures and I'll always need more terrain and that sort of thing. And that's going to be something that if I'm lucky enough and I get more prizes at future events, that's kind of always going to be on offer.
Yes.
You'd expect that. And I thought, like, how often do you get a chance to get a handcrafted pen?
Yes.
Right? And I was like, never. This is something that's never going to come up again. And I know that with that, and I was also lucky enough to win the Stein as well. I was like, these are two things that I'm going to go, I'm not going to get this anywhere else. And it's going to be such a great way to remember the event and the weekend. And it's even if it continues on as we all expect and we all hope, and we'll all be here every year to follow on. And as it continues on, and maybe those pens will come back, I have no doubt. But looking at that, I know that it's like, this is a pen handcrafted that I got from the first time this event was run. And I think something like that is going to be more unique. And that's going to be, at the very least, it's going to be my tournament pen. Every time I come to a tournament, I'm going to have my bolt action pen, and I'm going to use it to fill out score sheets.
Yep, excellent, man. That's what we like to hear.
Yeah.
What else can we say? Tell me about your day, Gorcin. Tell me about your event. Did you enjoy the event? We spoke about terrain. It was amazing. I'm sure you enjoyed. You know what I'd really like to know from the players? I asked them after the event to provide me feedback if they had any. I'd like to know if the tables were playable on top of looking good, because it's good to have a great looking table.
Yep.
I've serious concerns about when that table sometimes is either too cluttered or just too hard to actually, enact the mechanics of bolt action. How did you find them?
I found most of them were really good. So I naturally played 4 rounds. The first, I'm trying to remember, the first one that I played on was I think it was a European town with the bridge and the river. That one was really good. One of the things I'm finding, just the way that obstacles work in particular, unbroken big boxed sections of fences can be real slaughter pens.
Yep.
So that happened in the first game. Like, it didn't come down to the fact that there was a big box of a fence, like fenced off area, but it didn't help the situation.
Yep.
And then just the way that obstacles work, who can cross them, who can't. You can't run over them and think you have to advance, and all those sorts of things really came into play in that particular scenario, especially because the missions that we played a lot of the Bolt Action Alliance missions, which was fantastic. We got to play Kitty Hawk Down for round 3, which was really good. So we did, I forget what the first one's called, Frontal Assault, Punch Through, Kitty Hawk Down, and then we played Demolition, the rulebook. Yeah,
you got it.
It's the thing about players packs is that TO writes them once and then never has to read them, and a player has to read them 15 times.
I think I'm guilty of that. I think I wrote them, you write these things 3 months in advance.
Yeah.
And I got so tied up with building terrain and making sure that prize support was there that I didn't actually spend...
running and managing the event. Yeah.
I did. And then, you got to freshen up on the rules for any TO decisions you've got to make, and I'm just not sure that I really had a good read of the players pack. So a couple of times I have to admit I got caught out. Decisions were made right, and I think we did all right for that. But
well, that's ultimately why I have the TO, is that anytime it comes down and it goes, that's not what I wrote in the players pack, but this is what I meant. And then can be cleared up really quickly. Yeah. But I think there was 2 games where that sort of slaughter pen really came in.
Yep.
One was the first game. It worked for me because I could park my Shermans outside the slaughter pen and I had free fire zones. And then the flip side of that is I was up against a mounted, basically a mechanized platoon. Everybody in sort of armored transports and armored cars.
Yep.
But they were all wheeled, so they couldn't cross the obstacles. And so we were playing Demolition. I put my base inside a big metal stone wall fence.
Yes.
That covered maybe about 2/3 of the board. And then all I had to do was defend the gates that were in my deployment zone.
Yeah.
And so that made it easier. And then, of course, my opponent, there was a road that ran almost the length of the short end that was pointed at my opponent's base for Demolition. He parked a Ziz 3 in front of it during deployment, and I just looked him dead in the eye and went, okay, so we're not playing Demolition today, because I am not going anywhere near that. And so I just played defensively for kill points. And I think those, we talk about the usual stuff, not having an unbroken road going end to end. And I think it was just particularly those slaughter pens that really came into it. And I think it's also one of those, if you know the rules really well, you know how to handle that a little bit better. And I think it's just that obstacle advance run interaction is not something that people come across a lot. And I think it's just because people don't do unbroken fences. I don't think it's intentional. I think a lot of people just don't have enough fence.
Yep.
I think it's usually just what it comes down to. But I think aside from that, it was a small gripe. As I said, I don't think it decided games. No way. It made my Demolition game easier, but my opponent had some really poor dice. We're only counting wounding rolls. He got 22 ones.
Wow.
Trying to wound my guys. And that would have been, I only have 36 GIs in the entire platoon. And he was obviously wounding around those ones, but those 22 on any other number would have hurt. That's for sure. Absolutely. So, those sort of specific sort of terrain feedback is not really here or there. I think one other thing that caught a lot of people out was round 2. I forget which one exactly it is, but it's a bolt action lines one where you play in the diagonals.
Assault, you've got
Frontal assault, yep. That one, the way that the objectives work, puts a massive advantage in the defender.
Absolutely does.
So for those who aren't familiar with it, is there's 3 objectives. 2 of them go into the defender's deployment zone. I'm just going to give the broad strokes.
Yeah.
2 of them go into deployment zone. 1 of them goes into a no man's land that runs diagonally across the 2 long corners. The defender's objectives start in the defender's control, and the way you take control of an objective is by having your unit within 3 inches of it and no enemy unit within 3 inches of it, and then it flips, and it stays flipped until the opposite happens. And so that means that really all the defender has to do is leave a unit within 3 inches of either objectives by the end of the game. That's all that they need to do.
Yeah.
Ideally both, because trying to contest that third one in the middle, I think you have to have a very good reason to do that and a very particular list to make that work. Just hold your 2 objectives, let them come. And that's exactly what I did against Dan. And also, he had a massive inexperienced list with shirkers, and I was like, my friend, you can assault. Because if I give you the defense, that's a lot of units I have to churn through. If a shirker goes down in defense, it's no problem because he's still going to be harder to hit.
Yes.
But it's like if a shirker goes down while he's trying to assault or move towards an objective, take ground, that's going to be a problem for him. So that worked in my favor, but yeah, I think that game really just came down to the fact that I think it would have been a draw if Dan got to activate a few more of his shirkers, and it would have been a win if a couple of more things went his way.
Yeah.
And I think the only reason I managed to win that game was basically because he had shirkers, and I managed to hold on to a few key units in a few key places.
You've picked up on the part where the defender is at an advantage.
Yeah.
It's tricky running attacker-defender scenarios in tournaments, and I really thought that after a bit of community feedback on prep bombardment, preliminary bombardment, I thought, well, I'm gonna throw it in there, and because that's on that mission, it's kind of people might get false sense of security that choosing the attacker is a good role to play or side to choose. It definitely caught a lot of players out, I think. I think the guys who have played the mission before might have learnt that being the defender is definitely the better choice. I knew it beforehand, but I really enjoy playing that mission. We've a lot of our gameplay in Albany is thematic, so we're not afraid to do those missions. It's just a favourite one that I have to play, and I like the deployment map. It's different.
Yeah,
it's not straight across the table. It's on a bit of a 45. You've got a larger side and a thin side of the board, so it offers something a bit different for the players.
Yeah, it does. I don't think it was a quote unquote poor choice for the tournament. I think it's really great to see the Bolt Action Alliance missions played more. I think they're really fun. As I said, I'm a big fan of Kitty Hawk Down because the plane crashes in the middle of the game, which is a really hard thing to not enjoy, is getting units deleted by aircraft that land in the middle of the field. And that's I think, when we talk about sort of frontal assault, I would say that all you would really need to do is swap the objectives. So the defender starts with one and there's two in the middle. And I think then it would be a bit more, I don't know if fair is the right word, but I think the starting point would be more level.
Yeah,
I think if you need, like, a lot of things went really well for Dan. His Katyusha fired twice and both times hit 2 units. And like, how many more times do things need to go your way and you still lose for you to go, ooh, maybe we need to change something here?
Absolutely.
And I think, and that's having only played the mission, I think, a total of 3 times, and once was today. I'm not super confident that it quote unquote needs to be fixed. I'm fairly certain that the Bolt Action Line guys have play tested that mission 15 times more than I have, and I trust that pack as well. But I think, it's really great that we're getting them added and that they're getting played. I think that was one of the things I found surprisingly difficult writing my players pack for Band of Brothers was mission selection. I guess my ultimate wrap up for this event was if Band of Brothers can be, as the event that I'm running at the end of July can be a quarter of a success that this event was, and enjoyable for the players as it was for me, then I'm happy. I'm laughing. So, man, well done to you.
That's great words. And look, when everybody claps for you at the end of an event, mate, you get the warm fuzzies inside, don't you? Really?
Yeah.
And that's made it all worth it, and certainly given me some motivation to repeat it again next year. And the fact that when you get 18 registered players and they all turn up, or 17 registered players, they all turn up. I'm counting the Gumby as well. Ringer. Feeling the ringer. It's been an absolute success. Probably the biggest event we've had in Albany outside of a Warhammer event. It's the biggest thing we've seen in Albany, so it was a blast.
Yeah, well done, Gilly.
Thanks.
I think there's nothing more to be said. Well done, Southern Thrust. We'll be back next year, hopefully.
Thanks for coming down, Gorcin.
Cheers. Thank you.